Hi, I'm Patricia Hoppa, and I have been in the village for about 2 years now. Previously, I was from the Tacoma, Washington area, where I was with a group that addressed the issues of affordable housing, and the people that we serve were those that obviously had more needs for that. As I moved down here in late October of 2019, I was looking at how I could contribute to the community here. In January 2020, I was able to get to know about Creating Housing Coalition and started attending their meetings in January and February of 2020. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and now we're Zooming. I am really excited about being a part of Creating Housing Coalition. I'm part of the Committee on Program Development and Outreach. Today, I brought with me two friends who are going to tell you more about Creating Housing Coalition, how it started, and the plans for the future, and how this will affect Albany. So I'd like to introduce you to Stacey Bartholomew, who is the president of the board of Creating Housing Coalition, and Carol Davies, who is our vice president. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about how Creating Housing Coalition started.
I started the whole thing. I went to a meeting at First Christian Church in downtown Albany because we were looking at social justice issues. And they asked, what does Albany need? And I said, well, Albany really needs more affordable housing. And they said, so what are you going to do about it? And I said, I hesitated. And afterwards, after that meeting, one of our current members, Nancy Marshall, who is now 92, a friend of many people here, she came up to me and said, if you do it, I'll do it. And so I was hooked. I had to, because all these ladies from First Christian Church came around and started taking the opportunity to explore around Oregon what were solutions to the homeless crisis. And we visited Portland, we visited Eugene, and we discovered tiny house villages. And during that first year, we had a presentation from Dan Bryant, who is the executive director of Square One Villages in Eugene. And when he came up, we were expecting a handful of people to show up at our meeting, our presentation, and over 50 people from the community showed up. And one of those people was Carol Davies.
And that's how I got involved too. I was involved from the very beginning, and we together have built the organization from the ground up. It has been challenging and really exciting. We now have the most amazing people volunteering with us, and we continue to grow, and we will have a viable, vibrant village in the not too distant future. We're really excited about it.
Are you still associated with First Christian Church?
Well, they are very much continue to be sponsors of our mission, and they support us with a fundraising event every year. And many of the people that are part of this group, when we first started First Christian Church, there were quite a few people, and there are still a core group of people in this organization that are from First Christian Church. And so we have maintained our ties to First Christian, and we have expanded greatly into the community. For instance, right after Carol came in, we reached out to Albany Area Habitat for Humanity as our first official partner. And it was a good experience for both of us.
So who are your other community partners and supporters?
We are so lucky to have a number of community partners in Albany. Habitat for Humanity is our largest supporter. We also have joined forces with Jackson Street Youth Shelter, Chance, Family Tree Relief Nursery, Heart, the Adult Services team. We have the support of everybody in the city, and it is growing every day. We are able to bring more people in.
It's been great having this opportunity to grow, like Carol was saying, from our infancy, even before we were a nonprofit, which we are. We visited with many of these service agencies and worked on building those relationships and finding out how we could work together in this mission that we were trying to accomplish.
Is the village modeled after any other villages in the area?
Square One Villages has been our inspiration for our model because it's a cooperative model. And that's different from other housing that is geared towards low income, because it puts the management or the responsibility in the hands of the people, the residents that are living there. And we have built up Patricia and I, for instance, have been working on building up that structure that will guide the residents in how to, take care of all of the buildings and structures, help members to do all the things that they need to do, and keep the grounds and surrounding community a very livable and enjoyable place. We're very excited for that because that piece creates, social capital and financial capital. And it's something that we talk about a lot, the sustainability of this model. So they have shown us this model and how successful it can be. And they've built 2 villages in Eugene, 1 village in Cottage Grove, and they are now working on their 3rd village in Eugene.
And this is all part of a cooperative model, really exciting. The residents, they are in charge of the village. They help with enforcing any of the rules. There's also some really exciting, I'd say, innovative approaches to what we're doing for conflict resolution. That's called restorative justice. There are so many exciting things that are going to be happening at this village that are just going to help cement the relationship that all of the villagers have with each other.
Since you brought that out, how does the cooperative model work?
We have committees, and each resident is a member of one of those committees. There are 3. The administrative, which takes care of paying the bills, and the organization of the village. The membership committee, which organizes the people and gets members, interviews them, works together with how to keep people functioning together, and manages the conflict resolution. Then there is the House and Grounds Committee that takes care of all of the buildings and the landscaping and the community garden that we'll have. That's the part I love about here in Mennonite Village is they have an awesome garden spaces, and that's what we want to do in our village.
Who will manage the village?
The village will be managed by the residents. There's going to be a governing board. And as I had mentioned earlier, they're going to be enforcing the rules, and they're going to make sure that the village is well taken care of. If there's a conflict that they are unable to resolve, there are two different steps involved in that. The first one is our peer support worker, who is going to be specially trained by chance, and they're going to be living on site to assist the residents. And if any type of issue is not able to be resolved by that peer support worker, then the Creating Housing Coalition Board can step in. So that's kind of the hierarchy of the way the village is going to be run.
Is it going to be permanent or transitional housing?
This village is built up of houses that are on foundations, that are stick-built. They could be modular, in fact, built off-site and then brought on-site and put on a foundation. We are talking to lots of different builders, and we're excited about the opportunity we have, because we have some that have promised or pledged, I think that's the word, pledged to build the first model house, and others that have pledged to build 6 tiny homes for us.
We don't yet have a location. We are in negotiations with a couple of different landowners, and we're hoping to be able to finalize something by the end of the year. But as of right now, we don't have a definite site.
That's the hardest part, because we really want to get going. And we have gathered a number of funds, almost $2 million in funding to help us to do that once we get the piece of property.
How many homes are you anticipating?
Anywhere between 25 and 30, whatever the piece of, how big the piece of property is. We want to keep it small enough that everybody can participate in the governance, and there's not too much debate, because every resident has a vote in what happens in the village, but big enough that you have enough resources with other folks in the village.
And then you said that there's going to be other building also, a community building, or?
Yes, we may not have mentioned that, but we are hoping to do that first thing when we get the land, is to build the village, the community center. And we have worked with, what is the power company called?
Pacific Power.
Pacific Power to put solar panels on top of the community building to help offset some of the costs. Again, we're trying to get a sustainable village that will go on and on and on, and be able to sustain itself from the small bits of rent that these residents will be paying.
The community center is really, truly going to be the hub of Hub City Village. We're going to have a large commercial style kitchen there. So if the residents want to put on any large scale dining, any type of holidays, anything like that, they'll have the kitchen there that they can use at their disposal. There are also going to be washers and dryers there. It's also, and this is the most exciting part, that it's going to be the place where all of our learning takes place. There are going to be classes held on a regular basis, and the classes are going to be very varied. It's going to be anything from yoga to cooking on a limited budget, to gardening, to landscape planning. The number of areas that we can have people come in and teach the residents is really unlimited, and I think that's the most exciting part of it.
Yeah. A lot of our partners have already pledged to provide some of those pieces, like with Family Tree Relief Nursery and Community Services Consortium. They have services of case management and classes like how to be a good renter. That's part of Community Services Consortiums.
Our most important goal in this village is that our residents are successful.
How are you making it affordable for the residents?
They only pay 30%, up to 30% of their income. The houses are tiny. So they cost less to build, they cost less to maintain, and they cost less for the utilities. And with that, we have the model that Square One Villages showed us is that when you put all of them like an apartment complex on the same grid, and then they have that the electrical or the fees are all lumped into one, and that reduces some costs too. And so that over time will allow them to live for quite a few years. You know, even though the rents around may rise, that rent will stay fairly stable.
And that's another really exciting part is the whole rent structure. So the rents will average between $250 and $350 a month. $50 of that rent is going to be held in a savings account for the resident. Once that savings account reaches $2,000, the rent will actually go down by $50, and that resident will have that $2,000 to be able to use for unexpected expenses, or if they decide to leave the village at any time. And I do just want to circle back just a little bit. One of the questions that you had asked was if this was going to be permanent or transitional housing. And
Right.
Stacey had mentioned it is definitely permanent housing. Residents can live there for their entire lives if they choose to. So this isn't although it can be used as a stepping stone, it is not something that they have to move from after a certain amount of time. They can live there for the rest of their lives if they choose to.
Who is going to live there?
So the residents are going to be very varied. We're going to have people who are on Social Security, people who are on disability, people who are single parents escaping from domestic violence situations, young adults who are aging out of the foster care system. These are all of the people who are going to make up our village. These people have lost housing or are in danger of losing housing through no fault of their own. And this is going to make sure that they also will be able to live in Albany and do it affordably.
If you hear some of the stories that we hear, and there are people who are struggling to stay in housing because they are living on disability and they have to live in a certain type of housing because they are in a wheelchair and they can't, the costs keep rising and they don't have any control over that. And so we want to offer this opportunity, this choice in Albany for people to actually be able to sustainably live long term.
How much will a home cost?
Good question. When we first started this, we estimated the house itself with the foundation and all of the materials to be around $40,000. The COVID hit and some of the materials increased in price quite dramatically. And so we're estimating about $50,000, but we're still looking at the total cost per building. We have some great folks that are working on that right now.
Now, how's that going to be funded then?
We have funding from a number of sources. Obviously, we're doing a lot of private donations. We're also getting funding from some foundations, from grant sources, both local, federal, and state. And we'll be doing quite a bit of fundraising too.
Do you have people that are offering services or wanting to volunteer?
Yeah, I mean, we've had quite a few volunteers. In fact, so many that we decided we needed a volunteer coordinator. And one of those amazing volunteers turned out to be the perfect choice. She had moved here from California, where she had done, that was her job, was a volunteer coordinator. And we're like, our prayers have been answered, and they keep getting answered. It's crazy. It is crazy how that happens.
We have such a vast array of skills from the people who have offered to help us. We have accountants. We have people that are very familiar with all of the financial aspects. We have construction people. So all of the building trades are represented. We have people who are just interested in helping any way they can, so we'll be able to use them in a number of different ways. We have people who have experience in grant writing. It has just been amazing, the quality of the people that we have been able to attract. And that's why our organization is doing so well. It's really combined effort from all of the volunteers.
Yes, and you have somebody that makes birdhouses.
Yes, we do. And you can get a U of O one or an Oregon State one, or you can get a log cabin one, or you can get a birdhouse.
Multi-family birdhouse.
It's been quite fun. So if you want to find out more about those birdhouses, you can go to our website at creatinghousing.org, and there are places where you can look on donations part, but you can go and see pictures of those birdhouses. And Bill Root, who's one of our board members, is the builder of those birdhouses.
And they're amazing. They truly are amazing, having seen them myself and played with them. So I'm sure the birds are very happy. We didn't address how the residents were going to be chosen.
So that is what we have been working on from the beginning by interacting with our partners. The first thing was with Linn County Mental Health, and they are the coordinators of the adult services team. That was the process that we started to look at. Having referrals from adult services team, that's their whole reason for existing, is to take people who are unhoused and connect them into housing and make it so that they're successful at that. So there's all different organizations that are part of this service team: FISH, police, mental health, community services consortium are all people who sit on this committee and vet people. And then once we have referrals, we can have referrals from there, or we can have referrals from other places. And we have a background check, we have interviews, somebody in the community that is a trusted member of the community that can vouch for these folks, so that, we want them to succeed in this living experience. They have to have the ability to work with others and to function on an ability, like to have some income, and ability to engage in a committee and do some of that volunteer work that is required to keep the village running.
One of the really important aspects of finding people is making sure that they're going to be appropriate for the village. And that means a few different things. First of all, they have to have a steady source of income, whether that be from disability, Social Security, a part-time job. They have to have some type of an income so that they are able to pay the rent. The other really important aspect is they have to be able to work in a cooperative environment. Every resident of the village is going to be on one of the 3 committees. So they need to be able to work with other members of the village, and they need to be motivated to make sure that the village is running smoothly.
So they technically could get evicted if they weren't doing what they signed to do.
Exactly. And there is a minimum amount of effort that goes into it, because there's a 10-hour requirement of engagement, work hours, to help the village run. So you get into a committee, and about 10 hours per month. You have work assignments, you have committee activities, and then you have large work activities, which may be, doing the community garden in the spring, getting it all ready to go, or painting one of the village members' houses after a couple of years, or because they want to make a change. So those are the kinds of things that if a person is not engaged in, if they're not engaged, if they're not going to the monthly meetings, if they're not doing their service hours, they'll have that, what do you call it, 6 months of, what is that called? Probation. Thank you. Probationary period. 6 month probationary period.
So yes, it is possible to get evicted, and any of the
Yes.
rules that are set forth in our policies and procedures, if they're broken, then that could be grounds for eviction. We're hoping, however, that we're going to be choosing so carefully that this will be a very rare occasion.
In Square One Villages, for example, they've only had 2 evictions in their several years of existence as they were figuring out how to do their village. They've done a lot of the work of figuring things out for us, and so we feel pretty confident about our ability to learn from those many villages across the nation, and especially from Square One Villages, how to best be successful in this endeavor.
You also are going to have a peer support specialist. Will that person kind of help with the residents also?
Yes, as Carol shared earlier, that the primary responsibilities of the peer support are conflict resolution, crisis management, and health navigation or community navigation. So helping the residents navigate services that are available in the community and connecting them to their primary care doctor, or helping them find the transportation to get there if they don't already have their car, which it turns out most people do have transportation. So we are really excited about that peer support specialist, and we are currently looking for someone to fill that position so that we can use the funding that we got for them.
One of the qualifications that we're looking for in a peer support specialist is somebody who has lived experience. So somebody who has been without housing, possibly has had some type of health issues, that way that they can really relate to the other residents.
And what other services may be provided?
Links to our community partners help give a site where people can come in and provide some of the services that they have, either on an individual or group basis.
How do you see the village making a difference in Albany?
The first benefit is going to be to the residents themselves. It's going to provide them with a lot of Stability, thank you. It's going to provide them with a lot of stability, and it's going to help them to be able to be successful in not only the village, but in life itself. So in that way, it's going to help the city of Albany. As far as a broader perspective, these are people who are using emergency services to a great extent because they don't have the stability of being able to access care on a regular basis. So the calls to emergency services are going to be greatly reduced. And one of the other great things about this village is that it gives all of the residents of Albany an opportunity to participate in being part of a great community. So we can have school kids come in, and they can do foster grandparent programs, and they can help them with schoolwork. They can help with some of the groundskeeping. There's just so much back and forth that can happen between the residents of the village and the greater Albany community itself. So I think that all of these ways are really going to benefit Albany.
Our partnership with Community Service Consortium to establish an outreach program where people begin to mentor those who are unhoused, and that will allow both the mentee and the mentor to develop in their relationship, and that expands out into the greater community.
Thank you. I have the opportunity to go to Emerald Village, and it was an awakening experience for me to see the village, but also to meet a woman there who came out her door. And they're very small. They're like 400. What's the square foot of the villages again?
Around 250 square feet.
Yeah. And she came out and she said it was just so exciting to have a bathroom, something that most of us take for granted. So it's really amazing. And I think the other thing for me is it gives people back their dignity that they should never have lost to begin with. So I want to thank you both for being here and sharing my enthusiasm for this project, because I know you have even more enthusiasm than I do for it. And again, Stacey already said the site is creatinghousingcoalition.org, or if you want to get in touch with Stacey or Carol, it's info at creatinghousing.org. So thank you again.
Thank you.